The setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange and purple. Laughter echoed through Harmony Park, a symphony of childhood joy. 5-year-old Emily, a whirlwind of energy in a bright pink dress, chased pigeons across the vast expanse of green. Her parents, John and Sarah, watched with a mixture of amusement and exhaustion. John, a tall man with kind eyes and a weary smile, tossed a frisbee that sailed through the air, landing at Emily's feet. She squealed with delight, her laughter music to their ears. Sarah, her blonde hair glowing in the fading light, snapped pictures on her phone, capturing these precious moments. As dusk descended, casting long shadows across the playground, John pushed Emily on the swings, her giggles echoing through the emptying park. The last rays of sunlight glinted off the nearby pond, creating an illusion of liquid gold. A figure emerged from behind a towering oak tree, its silhouette barely discernible in the fading light. He moved with a practiced stealth, his eyes fixed on the unsuspecting family. John, lost in the rhythm of the swinging, didn't notice the man's approach. Sarah, momentarily distracted by a notification on her phone, looked up just in time to see a blur of motion. A gasp caught in her throat, her eyes widening in horror. Emily was gone, the swing swaying silently, a cruel reminder of her absence. Panic surged through Sarah, her heart pounding against her ribs. "John!" she screamed, her voice raw with terror. "Emily's gone!" John spun around, his blood turning to ice. The park, once a symphony of sound, was eerily silent. John's hand trembled as he dialed 911, his voice tight with panic as he relayed the terrifying events to the operator. Sarah, her face pale with fear, raced towards the park's entrance, her eyes frantically scanning every passing car. 2 police cruisers, sirens wailing, arrived within minutes, their flashing lights painting the night in strobes of red and blue. Officers, their faces grim, fanned out across the park, their voices sharp as they questioned witnesses. John and Sarah, their hope dwindling with each passing moment, clung to each other, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and desperation. Detective Miller, a woman with steely gray eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, took charge of the investigation. She listened patiently as John and Sarah, their voices thick with emotion, recounted the events leading up to Emily's disappearance. As the hours dragged on, the initial shock gave way to a gnawing sense of dread. The park, once a place of joy, now felt heavy with despair. John paced back and forth, his face etched with worry, while Sarah sat huddled on a bench, her eyes red-rimmed from crying. Detective Miller, her face etched with concern, approached them, her voice laced with empathy. "We're doing everything we can to find Emily," she assured them, her words a balm to their raw nerves. But even as she spoke, a flicker of doubt crossed her eyes. The lack of evidence, the absence of any credible leads, was troubling. The park, once a symbol of innocence and joy, had transformed into a battleground of hope and despair. The shrill ringing of the phone shattered the tense silence of the living room. John leaped for the receiver, his heart pounding in his chest. It was Detective Miller, her voice tight with urgency. "We just received a call," she said. "It was him. He wants a ransom." A wave of nausea washed over John. His worst fears were confirmed. This was no random act. Emily had been taken and her abductor was playing a deadly game. His voice trembled as he asked, "How much?" $200,000, Detective Miller replied, "and he wants it by midnight tomorrow."